Here are the three things that we're going to talk about tonight. Number one, I'm going to link Dr. Fauci and the NIH to the Institute of Virology in Wuhan and show you how he's been paying them to discover viruses just like this one. Number two, I'm also going to show you how the death toll numbers are completely fake and facade and completely way out of proportion. And then number three, you're going to hear right out of Bill Gates' mouth and Dr. Fauci's mouth just how crappy and harmful these viruses can be.
Came a long way from that minimum wage. Funny how money be bringing up people who never remember the time that they paid. Count it up on my two hands. If you want to talk, I need two bands. I don't play.
Boy, oh boy, have I got a good one for you guys tonight. Welcome back to another video. My name is Chuck, and I'll be your host. And for those that have never been here or seen my face before, make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, help me get this info out to others that have never heard this before. I don't even know where to begin on this, guys, because my mind just got blown right before I hit record. I actually stumbled upon an article that I wasn't even planning on using in tonight's episode, but it actually blew me away. So I'm just going to jump right into this without any further delay. I want to talk about one thing right now. You know, I give a lot of new information, and it's funny because I did my very first video back at the end of March, and all of the things that I talked about in my very first amateur screwed up video, I'm seeing pop up on several other media outlets now. I saw a couple episodes from Alex Jones, the Epic Times, and a couple of other really resourceful news outlets, and how they're doing videos and news stories on all of the information I was already giving you guys. So I want to give my own shout out right now to say that these are all the things that I've been telling you about, and I was one of the first ones to tell you guys. So it really makes me feel good to know that I'm on the right track. So appreciate all you guys' support, by the way, because it really means a lot. Thank you for sending me all the articles. Keep it coming. The first thing I want to talk to you guys about tonight is Dr. Fauci himself and the NIH and how he is funding research for coronaviruses in Wuhan at the Institute of Virology. Check this out. This is just one of many articles that I found right here. And as you can see, we're going to read the headline. Revealed, U.S. government gave $3.7 million grant to Wuhan lab at Center of Coronavirus Leak Scrutiny that was performing experiments on bats from the caves where the disease is believed to have originated from. Scroll down just a little bit more, and then the very next line, the U.S. National Institute of Health, a government agency, awarded a $3.7 million research grant to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Now, the thing is, guys, I don't know if you remember this, but Dr. Fauci is the head of the NIH. Pretty interesting, huh? Next line, the lab is the center of several conspiracy theories, more like facts, that suggest it is the original source of the coronavirus outbreak. The Institute experimented on bats from the source of the coronavirus. They were captured more than 1,000 miles away in Yunnan, and sequencing of the COVID-19 genome has traced it to bats in Yunnan's caves. The U.S. government funded research in coronavirus transmission in the lab over the past decade. It gets more interesting here. Let me scroll down. The Chinese laboratory at the center of scrutiny over a potential coronavirus leak has been using U.S. government money to carry out research on bats from the caves, which scientists believe are the original source of the deadly outbreak. Scrolling down a little bit further in the article, right here, according to documents obtained by the Mail on Sunday, scientists there experimented on bats as a part of a project funded by the U.S. National Institute of Health, which continues to license the Wuhan laboratory for American money-funded experiments. I am about to throw up just by reading this to know that our government is funding the very laboratory where this virus was supposed to have outbroke. I'm at a loss for words, guys, on that one. A little bit further down, as part of the NIH research at the Institute, scientists grew a coronavirus in a lab and injected it into 3-day-old piglets. If you guys remember right when all this first came out, there was a doctor over in Wuhan that tried to come out with all the information about how the virus was actually leaked from the lab, and he ended up dead. He must have been hanging out with the Clintons. Anyway, according to one unverified claim, a scientist at the institute could have become infected after being sprayed with blood containing the virus and then passed it on to the local community. Guys, when I stumbled upon this article and found out about this, it actually led me to another area, and I'm going to jump right into that because this article right here is dated just a couple days ago, April of 2020, but this next article goes all the way back to 2018, and wait till you read what is on this next article. Here's the article right here. It talks about, in the very first headline right here, new coronavirus emerges from bats in China, devastates young swine. If you remember in the last article that I just showed you, they said that, quote, an unverified claim could have been that a researcher was sprayed with blood from injecting the virus into young pigs. Now, this article goes all the way back to 2008. Matter of fact, 2 years ago, April of 2018. I'm sorry, I said 2008. I apologize. 2018. But this gets really, really interesting right here. So, the very first line in this article, a newly identified coronavirus that killed nearly 25,000 piglets in 2016 and 17 in China emerged from horseshoe bats near the origin of the severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS-CoV, the original SARS, which emerged in 2002 in the same bat species. They knew about this virus all the way back in 2018 and began experimenting on it. I hope you guys are putting all the pieces together with this. 2018, they started experimenting on this virus. It comes from the horseshoe bat. Remember, that's where they're saying this one came from. And what they're always also saying is not only did it come from the horseshoe bat, whether or not that's true or not, but maybe it did, but look right here. Near the origin of the severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS. They're saying that this virus is SARS-2 because it's 96% the same genome or the same genome sequence as the original SARS-CoV virus. You cannot get 96% accurate without it being modified or mutated. So the answer is right there. Okay, guys, item number 2 that I wanted to talk to you about was the death count. So first of all, let me start off by saying if anybody watching this has lost anybody due to this horrible disease, I want to say that I'm sorry. And my condolences go out to you. And for anyone else that knows anyone who's lost anyone, my condolences do go out to any and everyone who's perished because of this. But I want to get right into the facts. And the facts are that they're lying to us. They are lying to us about the numbers. At least here in the United States, I can definitely show you that, which is really what I want to talk about. Not that I don't care about the other countries out there, but the only ones that really affect us here are the ones are the death toll here in the United States. So first of all, right now we're looking at 1,999,000 across the world and supposedly 126,000 deaths, which is still a very high survival rate. 98% survival rate, or a little bit more than that. My math might be a little off for you guys out there that want to pick on me for that. But the point is, the numbers are, even though that they are lying to us about the numbers, and I'm going to show you that, it's still not as bad as everybody in the media especially is making it out to be, guys. They're just feeding us with fear. So let me get right into this. I got to start off by linking, I don't know if I did this the other day, but the CDC, in case you guys are not aware, is linked to Bill Gates. Imagine that. If you look right here on the CDC website, it talks about their partners in global immunization, about the CDC Global Immunization Division. Right here you've got a big fat picture of Bill Gates' ugly mug and a couple of other people's. Right down here it talks about the partnerships with internal organizations, talks about the World Health Organization, which we already know they're corrupt. Shout out to Trump for ending all their funding today. and also tied into the United Nations and a couple of other places. And then, of course, right here on the CDC website, it talks about the Decade of Vaccines Collaboration and the Global Vaccine Action Plan with none other than Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the $10 billion that they have pledged to get everybody in the world vaccinated. Well, anyway, so I wanted to make sure that I established the link between Bill Gates and the CDC, because this is all going to make a lot of sense to you. So let me move on to the next one. Okay, guys, I'm going to jump right into this. So the senator of Minnesota, who is also a doctor, his name is Scott Jensen, says right here he received a 7-page document from the Minnesota Department of Health on how doctors should go about filling out death certificates. And I'm going to play a little bit of this video, and then I'll be right back with you.
I think that, well, in Minnesota, as a physician, I received an email last week from the Department of Health coaching me on how to fill out death certificates. And I've never really received coaching from the Vital Statistics Agency in terms of how to do a death certificate. But basically, I felt like they were saying, you know, you don't have to have a confirmed laboratory test for COVID-19 in order to make the death certificate be COVID-19. So
wait. Sir, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that and what you just said, I think is critically important. Can you repeat what you just said, please?
Well, last Friday, I received a 7-page document that sort of told me that if I had an 86-year-old patient that had pneumonia but was never tested for COVID-19, but sometime after she came down with pneumonia, we learned that she had been exposed to her son, who had no symptoms, but later on was identified with COVID-19, that it would be appropriate to diagnose on the death certificate COVID-19. Now, we've not done that. If someone has the pneumonia and it's in the middle of a flu epidemic, and I don't have a test on influenza, I don't diagnose influenza on the death certificate. I will say this elderly patient died of pneumonia.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but my heart is sinking right now as you're telling me this. You're a doctor. Why in the world would they be sending you out information to fill out death certificates, whether the person's been diagnosed with COVID-19 or not, but then to say in the death certificate this person's death was caused?
I went to the person in our office who does most of the death certificates over the last 10, 20 years, and I said, does this sound right? I had her look at the documents that I printed off, and she said, well, we've always been told that you always put down just facts. You don't put down any probabilities. You don't put any presumptions down.
Okay, guys. This is right off of the CDC website, and cdc.gov, and if you go to the top of the page, this is the provisional death counts for coronavirus disease. Right here, cause of death classification and definition of deaths. I'm going to jump right into the second paragraph because it's the most important. Coronavirus disease deaths are identified using the ICD-10 code U07-1. Deaths are coded to U07.1 when coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19 are reported as a cause that contributed to death on the death certificate. These can include laboratory confirmed cases, as well as, I can't even believe they just put this, as well as cases without laboratory confirmation. If the certifier suspects COVID-19 or determines it was likely, i.e., the circumstances were compelling within a reasonable degree of certainty, they can report COVID-19 as probable or presumed on the death certificate. Right there is the answer to what I wanted to talk to you about. The numbers that they are giving us for all the deaths across the country, we've been labeled the worst in this entire situation because we have the highest count numbers. But let me tell you something. The U.S. government is funding hospitals, basically paying them for every death that they have due to COVID-19. Now here's something else on here I wanted to share with you guys too. Pneumonia deaths are identified using underlying cause of death codes from the 10th revision excluding deaths that involve influenza. Influenza deaths are identified from ICD and include deaths with pneumonia or COVID-19 listed as a contributing cause. So, they are basically labeling any death, if you test positive for COVID-19, even though the death is attributed to another cause, i.e. heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, or whatever. There are countless articles out there on this, so you're welcome to research this. Please don't just take my word for this. I am not a doctor, just going by the facts. But they are labeling, and there have also been countless articles and videos and news reports out there where people have been labeled COVID-19 death and they didn't even die from that. There is a governor in Arizona who got in some serious trouble for reporting that a infant died of COVID-19 when in fact the caretaker for the baby suffocated the baby. The baby never died from COVID-19. The family finally came out to set the record straight. The governor got in trouble for that. Let me see if I can find that article. Okay, guys, I found it. Looks like the cause of death of infant in Connecticut due to coronavirus was fake news. And then it goes on to say that other media outlets are picking up on it, so I actually ran across this article here too. Questions remain about the death of a Hartford infant, despite governor's claim death was linked to coronavirus. Going down through the article, I found that what had happened, the governor came out and said that the infant died of coronavirus before the medical examiner had ever even examined the body and came out with the cause of death. Then when he did come out with the cause of death, he linked it to suffocation. And then they're saying that the baby tested positive for coronavirus, which I truly don't believe that. Needless to say, the article's right there. So, point is, in all of this, that it is evident that they are padding the death count. And they're doing this to try to create more and more fear as this all goes on. Okay, guys, jumping right into my last topic, number 3. You're going to hear from Dr. Fauci and how he talks about the vaccines, what kind of harm they can cause, and I already had an idea in my mind based on all of the information that I found out. That I'm not going to take no vaccine no matter what they come out with. I could care less what they say about it. The fear that they put towards everybody. I'm not going to take any vaccine, especially a vaccine with poison in it that's put in by these people right here who are behind this entire thing. So I'm just going to get right into the video and let you hear it directly from Dr. Fauci himself, and then we'll get into the one about Bill Gates.
Understand, it's not only safety when you inject somebody and they get maybe an idiosyncratic reaction, they get a little allergic reaction, they get pain. There's safety associated. Does the vaccine make you worse? And there are diseases in which you vaccinate someone, they get infected with what you're trying to protect them with, and you actually enhance the infection. You can get a good feel for that in animal models. So that's going to be interspersed at the same time that we're testing. We're going to try and make sure we don't have enhancement. The worst possible thing you could do is vaccinate somebody to prevent infection and actually make them worse.
Now that video right there gives me chills just hearing it. And so does the second one that I'm going to play. But before I get into that video, I wanted to bring up a couple of articles to remind you guys of some of the deaths and lawsuits and other informational articles that have been linked directly back to the Bill Gates Foundation for all of the trials that they do on humans for their vaccines. Right here, there's an article, Deaths in a Trial for the HPV Vaccine. The death of girls who were part of a human papillomavirus vaccine trial raised an alarm about the nature of research in India. I won't go into the whole article because I've mentioned it before, but I just want to remind you that Bill Gates has been linked to several deaths and illnesses and injuries due to his vaccines and trials on other people. Ain't no way you're sticking me with nothing. Let's not remember, he couldn't even keep viruses out of windows. Why would I trust him with a vaccine for something like this? Now, this last video that I want to show you guys is directly from Bill Gates himself, ties right into the one we just saw from Anthony Fauci, and he talks about the possibility of the outcomes of the vaccine. So let me get right into the video, and then I'll come right back and talk to you.
Well, it's always a huge challenge. You know, it turns out the flu vaccine isn't that effective in elderly people. We clearly need a vaccine that works in the upper age range because they're most at risk of that. And doing that so that you amp it up so it works in older people and yet you don't have side effects. You know, if we have, 1 in 10,000 side effects, that's, way more, 700,000 people who will suffer from that. And that actual decision of, okay, let's go and give this vaccine to the entire world, governments will have to be involved because there will be some risk and indemnification needed.
And this is a guy that openly says...
Okay, guys, I'm going to conclude the video here with just some final words and some final thoughts. We've got Dr. Fauci. Obviously, we know he's the devil, just like Bill Gates, giving money straight out of his foundation to the Institute of Virology to study coronavirus from bats. We've got the death toll that they're padding. They're obviously not being real with the numbers. And they're getting paid more money. So I get why they're doing it, but it doesn't help us at all if we're ever really going to get life back to normal. We need to know the correct numbers, and they're not being truthful with us. So, man, I suggest that you guys do any and all research on your own. Hit me up with stories. Hit me up with what you guys want to talk about. I'll research anything. But I'm really scared. Scared maybe not the best word to use, but my fear is of the fact that we're all freaking out, and when we should be all sticking together trying to figure this all out and figure out how we're going to get past this situation. But man, I don't know what the answer is as far as what we can do about all this, but I do know this, man. We should demand they tell the truth, and we should demand that we get all the help that we need throughout all of this. So I love you guys. I really appreciate it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash that like button. Help me get all this information out there, guys. All right, I'll see you on the next one.